All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. For you that don't know me, my name is Ginedo, and I am the stakeholder champion at Blackbullion South Africa. And I will be leading today's discussion in our webinar, where we are unpacking the risks we take with our money, whether it's gambling, risky investments, or financial decisions that are driven by pressure or misinformation. We're going to explore the differences between smart risks and dangerous ones. But I'm not here alone. I have two wonderful guest speakers with us. First, we have Mes Bongile with us, and she is the author of the book Dice of Despair, a book where she shares her struggles and her triumphs that come with the high stakes world of chance. A very good book and some great information in it. So she will be joining us, as well as our second guest, JP, who is a certified financial planner with years of experience in structuring private wealth and strategic consulting at Banker X. And Banker X is an inclusive digital media, education, and wealth technology platform, which is designed for the vast community of Gen Z and millennials. So, me. So, I'd like to welcome both our speakers to the stage. Can we see them? Okay. As they join. All right, there we are. So, how we're going to do this session, this webinar, is through some of the confessions that we received anonymously on our Instagram page. We asked our community to share some money confessions, and we listened. We didn't judge, and we're going to use some of them today to help us lead the discussion. But before we do, I want to share some rewards that we have for you today. We have five prizes actually to give away. Our first two are two 500 easy equity vouchers, and we have three Dice of Despair books written by Ms. Bongile to give away. And how can you win these? By just writing questions, comments. We'll be reading your questions and comments in the chat, and we'll be picking five winners. Okay, so let's get into our first confession. So here's our first confession. I'm going to ask JP to lead us in the question afterwards. Um, our first confession comes from somebody anonymous, obviously, and they said, I placed a bet with my meal allowance on football bet before buying anything. Turns out I lost. And the lesson I learned is that before I gamble, I should buy all the things I need, especially food, before gambling it all away. We have another confession where I once took all my NASFA's allowance and put on Aviator. I had to actually Google what Aviator is. It's actually a game on Betway. I never heard of it until I saw this confession. Never again. I was desperate, but I learned to think wisely and save money. So, JP, we're seeing more and more young people turn to quick wins like gambling, this aviator that I'd never heard of, forex trading. What do you think is driving this, and what's the financial danger zone they might not be seeing?
So thank you guys for the opportunity, and yeah, those are some scary confessions off the cuff. So I would say, I think a main driving force behind this would be unemployment, a stagnant economy that's not growing as quickly as it should be growing, opportunities not available for people. And to just add to what you say, this is not only just a younger generation problem. We also see it in very older generation people that are retiring and haven't accumulated enough money. So it all boils down to not having money or not having enough money. And that instinct drives you then to go and, have as little as what you've got to potentially put it on something that you think is going to be the miracle tonic. It's going to help me. I'm going to make 500 times my money back. And it's a gamble. You literally gambling that it's going to happen or not. This is, using platforms like you said, Betway, but we also see it in forex trading, for example, the day trading that people are doing. The dangers that they don't see is that it's unrealistic, those the money that they are promised and the returns that they are looking at getting on investments or forex trading. And that should be the first thing that's ringing alarm bells. Someone that's telling me, as a person that's been in the industry for 20 plus years, as soon as someone tells me I'm making more than 50% return on an investment, I'm starting to wonder, well, what's involved here. And I'm not saying it's not possible, guys. Don't misunderstand me, but there's risks involved, and you need to understand the risk involved. So if you have cowboy money, as I like to call it, so I've done everything, as that person said, I've taken care of all the necessities. So in terms of my life, I've paid my bills, I've invested my money in my retirement annuity, so I'm saving for the future, I'm building my emergency fund. If something happens, I've got cash at hand and dry powder if an opportunity comes up. And once all of that's taken care of, I'm sure, if I'm making an income, I'm making sure that I'm protecting that income as well in terms of insurances. And once all of that is done and I have some money lying around, then yes, please, guys, cowboy that stuff and see if you can make that type of return. But again, understand the dangers of that.
Thank you. I see a comment here where Kutlana said, I think advertising towards Forex and gambling is aggressive without explaining the risks they pose. And I think that is exactly what you said. Nobody knows the risks or understands it fully when they get into this, which is a very important factor. Definitely understanding what you're getting yourself into and the dangers. Absolutely. We seem to have lost Miss Mungle, but hopefully she can get back on. But in the meantime, I want to move on to our next confession. So, confession number 3, I took out a store account for just one thing and promised myself I'd pay it off in full. Next thing I knew, I was shopping every month like it was free money. The interest caught up with me, and now I'm still paying for shoes I don't even like anymore. I think a lot of us can relate to this, whether in the past or happening now in your life. But debt is a big part of many young South Africans' lives, from student loans to credit cards. Credit cards can come shiny. Get a nice 10,000 rand credit card. You're thinking free money. In your experience, what's the difference between good debt and dangerous debt?
Yeah, so we like to classify good and bad debt, dangerous debt, and good debt, and again, this is a personal view of people, so first have that discussion and understand what you're looking for. But for example, a bond where you're paying off a bond, that is seen as good debt. Okay. In terms of South Africa, you will see, a lot of people say, a car is a liability, and all of that. But in South Africa, transport becomes super important. People rely on transport. Some people don't have transport. Some people don't feel safe in the transport. I can very much understand the ladies on that side, that don't want to take taxis, for example. So in terms of getting a car, that would be something that I see as good debt potentially. Bad debt, or dangerous debt as we call it, is any day that I start living, or any money that I start living off, that I don't actually have. So if I'm living on daily basis with debt, I'm starting to get myself into some serious trouble. And it's exactly like that person explained in their confession. It doesn't mean that a store account is bad. The debt isn't necessarily bad. If you are using it correctly, if you are managing it, that's a different discussion. But as soon as I start using it on a day-to-day basis to do my shopping, and I don't actually have that money, it's not going to be too long before you find yourself in trouble.
Very true. We have a question. Could you please explain how credit cards work? One of our users has asked.
So a credit card, basically, guys, is just a tool that a bank would go to and say, or a product, that a bank would give to you and say, based on certain credit criteria, I'm not, the most wisest when it comes to the criteria that every bank would use for that, but they'll have a certain set of criteria. So demographics, what does your credit history look like? They look at your credit scores, those type of things. And then they would offer you a credit card, and attached to that credit card, they would obviously, put an interest rate. In most cases, super high interest rates on credit cards. Okay, so that's something. Personal loans, those type of things, carry quite a high interest rate. So again, be careful. And again, a credit card is not bad. It can be something that is used as an emergency tool, for example. But if you're living on a daily basis off your credit card, then we're starting to have problems, because that means a budget problem. That doesn't mean a credit problem. It means you have too little money left over in the month to do what you're doing. You need to somewhere cut back. Otherwise, that debt loop just goes deeper and deeper.
That is true. So that's some advice on credit cards. One last question before we move on from debt and credit cards. As a young adult, so Nolutando, this question. As a young adult, we are expected to have good credit record for things such as cars, accommodation, rental, and so forth. How do we then go about building good credit in a healthy manner?
So in most cases, we would suggest to people to take out, credit card and for example, a store account, because that is the only way that younger people can generally build up some form of a credit. It's very difficult if you don't have a credit card. It's very difficult if you don't have a store account. But again, behind this is the management of that account. So if the bank is seeing that you've got a credit card, say every 2 months or 3 months, I use some money on it, but the following month the money's paid back and it's equal, or I use it to store some money in, the bank is noticing that. And based on that, they would update your credit score. Okay, so it's vitally important that you then ensure that you're not living off of them. You're keeping them updated. You're paying the money back that you owe. And if you then get any, let's call it like car financing or things like that, ensure that you're always paying those type of debts. That should be the first thing that comes off your pay slip when when you get your monthly pay, to ensure that you don't get a mark against your name, guys, around not paying bills, because that is the biggest dent that people have. And immediately that stays on your record for a period of up to 5 years, that they monitor you and see if you have or if you do that again.
All right, thank you. So Nhlanhla said a way to think about it is that good debt builds, bad debt breaks. All right, I think that's a good way of phrasing it when you're deciding if you should get that credit card or not. Thank you so much. So our next confession, and this one broke my heart. I spent my entire NASFAS allowance in 1 week during first year on clothes, takeaways, and a new phone. I thought more money would come. It didn't. I had to survive the rest of the month on instant noodles and regret. When I read this, I was so sad. And earlier on today, I actually had a meeting where I realized it's actually more common than I thought. Our next confession: I used the money that was meant for groceries to bet on Betway, thinking I'll flip it and make more money. I lost everything. Now I was left with no food, no money, and a heavy heart. I was desperate in having more money and made a terrible choice. I learned that desperation can cloud your judgments and lead to reckless choices. There are no real shortcuts. So I see this a lot. Short of money, deciding, okay, let's go gamble, let me do something. So let's say a young person is already in that financial spot, right? With debt, maybe gambling losses, as the first person said, they gambled their whole NASFA salary money, thinking it will come back. What's the first step you'd advise them to take just to get back on track after such a detrimental situation?
So the first thing is ownership. and that is something that a lot of people shy away from. We all want to say, "Oh, I made the wrong choices," and we blame a lot of the things out there. But you got to take ownership of that debt that you've taken on, and for whatever reason you did it, and then come to the realization once you take an ownership that what can I do to fix it, guys? You're not alone. Lots of people have debt. Lots of people have bad debt. My advice to you would be get in touch with someone that can assist. Financial advisors out there. You can go to the Financial Planning Institute, for example, the website. All registered certified financial planners are there. Ask questions, guys. There's people on LinkedIn. There's people on X. Follow, the right people. And if you have a question, ask, how do I do it? What can I do to help me get out of a situation where I've got a tremendous amount of debt? But the first step you have to take is ownership of that debt. And then from there are many, many strategies that you can implement and help you to pay off the debt, get out of debt, because that must be your first step before you even then look at anything else. Your strategy should be pay off debt. Don't worry about, don't worry about extra betting. Don't worry about investing. Don't worry about putting emergency fund away. Make sure you pay off debt.
Great advice. I definitely agree. Pay off debt and ownership is the first step to recovery. I think with anything in life, just owning it first is a very important. We have a question, and I think many people might think they're in a financial spot because of it, and it might affect them in life. Does tuition debt affect your credit score?
You're asking me a interesting question. What I will do is I'll find out for you and I'll get back to you, because I cannot tell you off the cuff. I would assume it is, if it's in your name, that would say, you are liable for that debt. But I'm, and how it would affect your score. If it does affect your credit score, I'll find out for you guys and get back to you.
Okay, thank you, JP.
Pleasure.
I'm going to take a mini pause and just read some of the comments we've had in our chat. Some, I guess, mini confessions too. And Mzansi said, it happened to me. I invested in Forex. Boom, I blew about 4K. My first book allowance. Yet that time I didn't have a PC and I wanted to triple it to make more. Well, that risk didn't go well, but I learned from that. So thank you so much for being brave enough to share that with us. Lunga says, online gambling is not normal and it's easy to take money from your savings account and gambling into a gambling account. Now I have nothing to show because of it, and I'm even scared to share this one with my relatives, I'm assuming, which is something you touched on, owning it and maybe speaking to the right people for help.
I just want to interject there, because I think it's an important point. A lot of people don't feel comfortable discussing this with family and friends. It's not a conversation you're going to be having at the braai or at a wedding or something, to tell people, I'm actually in debt, because I gambled it all away. So we tend to find that, people say, I don't want to discuss it with friends and family, and we understand that, but you need to speak to someone. You can never just leave it. So get in touch with, a financial advisor. Again, there's plenty of us on Twitter or X. There's plenty on LinkedIn. Touch base, ask questions. Maybe there's someone that assists you and help you, and you don't even, fix, if you want to call it that. So we tend to find people won't speak to relatives and family for obvious reasons, but you need to speak to one. So do get into contact with professionals around
that. You referred to a few people on X. Do you have any personal people you think people should be following, or any specific organization or people that you believe people should follow if they want to?
So you want to follow people, in general, the CFPs have got a CFP behind their name because it's a registered trademark. So you will find them usually on any of the LinkedIn or uh, Twitter or X, the old Twitter. They usually have a CFP added on. But there's also other people like Maya on Money. I don't know if she's sometimes on ENCA in the morning. She's called the Money Maven. So those are the type of people that you want to interact with and watch, because they are the people that are actually going to assist you. There's a lot of people on social medias, and the industry is busy adapting to this. It's something that's become quite a topical discussion at the moment. Is what we call finfluencers, or the celeb influence. So you hear these celebs talk about investing in African Bank, for example, at such an interest rate, but do they actually understand what they are saying to the people? And do the people understand what these guys are saying? And that's why we say get in touch with a CFP. I'm happy to drop you a couple of names if you want to put it down, out there, and I'll put their handles out. I know they're always happy to, have people follow them. And you can see they would put things down, or put threads down, or put tweets down where they discuss, who's the right people, what does it take to be a CFP, who can give you advice, who can't give you advice. And it's important for people to know.
All right. Thank you so much. So we will be sharing all the names after the session. Let's go to our next confession. And this kind of leads into what you actually had mentioned about speaking to family and friends. Buying a brand car for my parents because it was a demand for them. My heart is crying every day because I could have invested it and bought furniture for them, or renovated my bedroom and my little sister's room. Our rooms look like a mess. I wish I was wiser at the time, but there is silver lining though. It set me on a path to become financially literate. Uh, oops, sorry. So yeah, a lot of us don't talk about our financial struggles, as you said, especially with friends and family. Why is financial openness important? And how can, in your opinion, how can we start these conversations safely? And I think especially with family, I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes when you start making money to do things for your family. I don't know about buying a brand car. That's one of the extreme ones. But yeah, how do you think we can start this conversation safely?
So I think it's important, again, just to know who the person in the family is to talk to. The problem that we find is people get shaped by their, as we call them, money scripts. So how were you raised in terms of money? Were your parents open about money? Were they closed up and conservative about money? You were never told anything. So that has a big like psychological side to it, that influences how people see it and whether they're open enough to usually talk about it or not. In most cases, people don't like talking about it. Money is taboo. We don't like talking about taboo. We only think about it, and we talk it in our deepest, darkest holes inside of us. So, in terms of that, I always say to people, reach out to a financial advisor. The Financial Planning Institute has a website. You're more than welcome to go on there, touch base with them. You can leave your details there, and they can connect you with someone. Doesn't matter if you're young or old, guys. Advice has moved on over the years. It's not what it used to be. I would just say to you, try and keep with the independent financial advisors out there, guys that aren't, tied to specific companies, for example, and also, understand what they are bringing to the table. But you want to speak to financial advisors, you want to get their help, and those are usually the people that they understand that. So in terms of that, a safe place to start that conversation is with your financial advisor. Definitely do that. Also, may I just add that if you're in a relationship, or you're married, or you're cohabitating, whatever the preference is, life partners, whatever it might be, just make sure that you and your partner have open discussions about it as well. And again, a very good bridge between those two discussions can be a financial advisor, because again, we all grow up differently with money and how we use money. So, you must be open. It is one of the most devastating, finance has one of the most devastating impacts on families in terms of divorce, because people can't agree to use money in the same way.
Thank you, JP. And I'd like everyone to know that you're never too young to reach out to a financial advisor, um, which is something I learned a bit late in life. But definitely, even if you're 18, go out and reach out to a financial advisor and just start the journey now. Ms. Bongile, I see you've joined us, and just in time, because I think this is a question I did want to ask you. Um, so we spoke about a confession where someone shared that they felt pressure from their parents to buy them a brand new car, and they feel like they could have used that money for other things. So the question is, a lot of us don't talk about our financial struggles, especially with friends or family. And from your experience, why do you think this is important, to have financial openness and conversations?
I think financial conversations, they are very, very important. And honestly, we don't talk about financial issues in most of the time. We are not opening up about our financial status. So I think there's a problem in that, in misusing money and not talking about the money issues.
Yeah. So we need to all work together in breaking that taboo, and having
What
these
was the
conversations
question?
is definitely important. Just to go to our chat, one of our uh, one of the confessions, confessions that's written, let's call it a confession. My mom made me use my bursary money to pay off her loan from a mashonisa once. It was 4K.
I
That made
think
me draw.
financial conversations, they are very, very important.
Oh, we lost her. Oh, we did lose. Okay. Um, that made me draw strict boundaries about talking about money issues. That was from Gutwano. And I think with what JP had mentioned earlier, maybe it's about reaching out to people that are in that industry. So your financial advisor, somebody that you know is in that space and can give you solid advice. We lost her again. And I'm going to read one more. Ntlantla says financial openness is built on trust. It builds trust, reduces stress, and helps you make better money decisions, because honesty is the first step to financial control. I like that comment a lot, because I think that is it. Once you own it, once you speak up about it, it becomes easier to do. So let's move to our next confession. She's back. So the biggest mistake my mom and I made was borrowing money from a loan shark. At first, it seemed like a quick solution, but the interest kept growing each month. Now we're trapped in a cycle of paying one debt with another. It's overwhelming. The stress is constant, and no matter how hard we try, we can't seem to catch up. We're stuck, and it feels like there's no way out. So when money is tight, it can be tempting to take risks, like betting your last 50 Rand, hoping for more, going to a loan shark. What are some practical alternatives to risky spending that you'd recommend? So let's kick off with JP. Yeah.
Wow, I'm shocked about the some of these confessions. I cannot believe it. So, in terms of alternatives on risky spending, like you say, yeah, my advice to any client, if I had the discussion with the client and based on our discussions that we had, if they are young and they're starting out in the industry, and if you have work, and you have a pension fund at work, fantastic. Already something is being done. So, that's a great start. You're putting some money away, but you must have emergency funding. So what is emergency funding? Emergency funding is to cover all my essential costs. So you need to build up money. So instead of trying to give 50 Rand to a loan shark, or getting the next 50 Rand to the loan shark, start building emergency money. You never have too little, but emergency money, if you keep building that up, eventually you sit with what we call dry powder, or money in the bank, and that allows you opportunity, guys. So then you don't maybe need to borrow money to buy something. I've actually got cash lying around. I can use that money to buy it. Or I've got dry powder or money sitting there waiting for opportunities. So I know that if that opportunity comes, I can take on that opportunity. With that comes a lot of other responsibilities, guys. It's not just as easy as that. And that would be first step, to build the emergency funding. But from there, as we mentioned, you then need to take care of all your other, can we say it, savings and investments. And once you've done that, and there is still some money left, and you feel like you need to further diversify, and you want to take on some risky investment, or you want to go CFD trading at 100 times whatever the share is worth, use that type of money. But you don't want to use money that you need to build the emergency funding with, build your investments and savings with. It is tight out there, and we understand it's very tight. But if the money is tight, don't give it away. Rather keep it, grow that emergency fund, and that emergency fund will start giving you some relief, because you can start paying things from that.
All right, thank you so much, JP. Ms. Bongli, I'd also like to hear from you. What are some practical alternatives to risky spending that you'd recommend? I think you're on mute.
I'm on mute.
Yeah, there we go. We can hear you now.
Okay. Remember with me, I've gambled my life for the past 18 years, and I had these risky behaviors about the money. I've never used the money correctly. The whole money that I was carrying, the money was taken by all the loan sharks and all the banks that I was owing, and it was a risky behavior for me, and I was never told about how to save money, how to use money. So my whole life, I'll be honest with you, my whole life, I've gambled my life for 18 years, and as a traffic officer, I was earning a lot of money, but in that 18 years, remember, I didn't know about all the risk. But the thing that I can tell you is that I was the gambler and I was an addict. So I was using money recklessly for my whole life, actually.
So, with your experience, what would you like to say to everyone here? What steps should they take if they find themselves in this kind of situation that you were in terms of gambling? What advice would you give them?
They must use their money wisely. At least now they have opportunities like this one to listen about how to use the money. So everyone must use the money wisely, very, very wisely, because there's no turning back. I've started using the money recklessly while I was in my youth, whilst I was still at school. I was an entrepreneur and I was making money, but with the wrong decision that I have taken in my life, those wrong decisions, I was supposed to use the money correctly. It's very, very important to use your money correctly and to have a better credit score in your life, because once you miss that in your youth or in an early age, you must know that you are considered as a bad person, as a dead person, because the credit record is very, very important. I think by now, everyone should start using money very wisely, very, very wisely. It's very, very important, especially the young ones, because I know by myself I used the money wrongly, and I was very, very young. And by now, when I look back, and I tell myself, I say to myself, I should maybe by now I should be owning my triple story. I should be, living a life. But since I don't gamble anymore now, I'm 7 years clean, but I'm starting to take care of my money, and it feels so free. And it feels so I'm free. I don't want to lie, because now I know how to use the money. I know how to budget. I know the danger of not using the money correctly, because that thing, it will destroy your life if you don't use your money correctly. It's a destroyer. You will be destroyed for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much for
So I
sharing that,
think
Miss.
people. Okay.
And I know you said you were an addict, gambling addict for 18 years, which is a big chunk of time. What were your first steps to get out? How did you get out of that?
With gambling, it's very hard. You don't just stop even if you want to, because there are no help for gambling. But I've tried in that 18 years, because I knew that I was a problem gambler. But I was addicted and I couldn't stop. And with gambling, we feel so embarrassed that you can't even tell anyone. But everything, it's going up and down when you are a gambler. But I've tried my best to stop. I've tried every method that you can use up until in 2017. I remember 2017 November on the 27th. In that day, I was feeling so empty because I owe everyone. Dangerous loan sharks, I can tell you, all the bank. And when you owe all the banks, the only option that you have is to go to the loan sharks, and you end up going to the dangerous loan sharks. And just imagine me as a traffic officer owing everyone, you know, everyone. But I got courage on the 17th to say, today I'm going to stop this. But it was not nice, because in that day I fought with the casino management, trying to tell them that, I've been trying to stop gambling. I've been trying to sign those papers that you sign when you see yourself as a problem gambler. You sign that forms that they say it's a self-exclusion form. You exclude yourself from the casino. You ban yourself in all the casinos. But unfortunately, I signed that exclusion form in 2008, but it was not enforced. I saw that no one cares with this. It was just a piece of paper to them. So in 2017, I fought with the casino management to say this needs to stop. I'm tired of gambling, and I've signed these papers, and no one, just was enforcing the paper. So I had to fight for myself. I had to fight for me to stop, because by me fighting, I knew that I was not going to enter the casino premises anymore, because I was told that all my photos were all over the casinos. They put all my photos on the casinos to say this one is a problem gambler. She must stop coming to the building. But it helped me so much, because today I'm no more gambling. And I will tell you, gambling is very dangerous, and it's destroying our youth with money. Remember, when the gambling is starting destroying you at an early age, that means you are dead for the rest of your life. So I fought, and I had to stop, because I wanted to manage my money. Yeah, I was tired of the loan sharks, actually.
Um, that is powerful that you fought for yourself. Do you, because earlier on we spoke about openness, and financial openness, to talking to your family, talking to friends, and then JP also recommended financial advisors. Did you ever turn to any friends or family, or do you have the conversations now with your family about financial awareness, financial literacy? Are these conversations that you have now?
Yeah, I think by me writing the book, The Dice of Despair, I was trying to open up about that because remember, my family didn't know that I was an addict. With
Mm,
gambling, it's a hidden addiction. You can't tell anyone because we feel so embarrassed. I had a fiance who was ready to marry me, but because of my gambling behavior, he chased me away. I had to stay all over, it was wherever I lay my head, it was my home because of this addiction. And we couldn't talk about money. We couldn't talk about, everything was hidden about the money because I was taking money somewhere where he didn't even know that I was putting the money in the machines. So now I think for me to write this book, it was to make people aware that there are addictions that are taking our monies away, and there is a better way to come back to yourself and say, let me save money, let me learn more about money. Sometimes I wish I was told at an early age about this subject of money, you know, about learning about the money. If I knew about all these subjects of the money, I think I wouldn't be where I am today because I'm still paying my debts. Anyway, I'm still suffering for my consequences. And
mm,
gambling is spread now. Everyone is gambling actually. It's a hidden addiction. And hence
mm,
everyone it's so stressed now. Yeah, you can't even understand why our students in the university they are stressed. In my TikTok account, there are a lot of students that are crying to say we are gambling and we can't tell our parents we are using our NSFAS money, we can't budget, we can't even, we can't even go home, and we are starting to owe the loan sharks. Just imagine at their age, because at their age, they are dead by now if they are starting to owe everyone. If your credit score is messed up now, which
mm,
means you're not going anywhere with
mm,
your life.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think this is what is important, your book as well, is just to start these conversations, you know, about gambling and its dangers. As we said earlier, you know, knowing the risks is very important when you are gambling, when you decide to click on Betway, when you're, you know, spending that money. That is very important. Definitely. So thank you so much for sharing. Um, we have reached the end of all of the confessions. There were many more. Just these are just some of the ones I picked out. There were quite a lot of confessions. And one, thank you to all the people that actually shared their confessions. It was, you know, very interesting to read, but also it's the first step is knowing what's happening. I just before we leave, I want to share some final. I want you each to share some final thoughts with our users. What do you? What advice would you give them for their future, for the present? What can they do today to set them on the right path? Yeah. Let me start with JP.
So I would have three things that starting out in the investment world or starting out in the big adult world and having to invest and do all of that. Number one would be get an investment strategy, understand what you want to do with your money. Important. Long term, short term, doesn't matter.
Mm,
Understand the journey, and it starts with emergency funding. That is always step number one. And then from there, understand how you're going to save, how you're going to invest, and for what. Okay, because they need goals and dreams. And when we work towards goals and dreams, it makes it easier for us to invest. Number two is, and I saw someone mention it on the chat as well, side hustles, guys. Okay, the days of having one job, for example, doesn't work anymore. You must
mm,
have numerous different income streams coming in. Uh, that would be very important. And it opens up another door for you at older age. So Sanlam recently brought out an article where they said up to age, people actually only retire at age 80, not age 65. Okay, guys. And the reason is that at age 65, you only accumulate around 25% of your capital requirement for retirement. Okay. Most people at age 65. That means they need another 20 years before they can actually get to what we call that 75% mark. So 75% of my final salary. To give you more or less an idea, that's 15 times to 20 times your final salary. So if your final salary is R1,000,000 when you retire, then you should have around 15 to 20 million to maintain your living standards. Otherwise, your living standards will drop, guys. Okay, so hustling, extra hustles work because it means that from age 65, if your employer tells you to go, I can go and do something else and make some more money and even leave my other monies to grow for longer. Number 3, ensure your income, guys. Big problem. If you are managing to get an income, make sure you insure that income. There is no bigger insurance that you can get. Don't worry about death and funeral covers and stuff like that. Your ability to earn an income is the most prized possession you have. So make sure you insure that. And you will get a income for the rest of your life.
All right, thank you so much, JP. And I think the comment was from Ntlantla. Gambling at a young age is very dangerous because it increases the risk of addiction, harms brain development, and leads to money problems and can cause long-term mental health and life issues. Stay away, guys. Hustle in good ways. These are the side hustles that you should look into. Uh, Miss Bonge, let's go to you next. What advice, what final words would you like to share with our audience today?
Okay, with the money, what I can say is that people should budget wisely, track your income and expenses, save regularly, set aside for emergency and goals.
Mm,
Maybe number 3, I can say invest smartly, consider your risk tolerance and goals, and just pay off your debts. Prioritize maybe high debts. And lastly, I can say live below your means. Avoid overspending, actually. Just
mm,
use your money wisely. I regret, with gambling, yeah, I can talk maybe the whole day, if maybe we had more time just to save the next generation. I'm worried myself about the next generation to see if there can be more education about this man, because our students, our young ones, the youth, we don't have the youth, guys. All the youth, they're into gambling, they're into drugs, they're into alcohol, and everything. Those addiction, it's like humanity over addictions, and it's taking over their lives. And with
mm,
that 3 system of gambling, alcohol, and drugs, we are dead. We don't have the country. We don't have, we have nothing. And to see this, it pains me because we have a lot of foreigners in our country, and those foreigners, they are very sober. If you can look at that, and we, the South Africans, they are taking our jobs because we are always intoxicated. We are always, no one is sober. Very few people that are sober in our country, and that thing, it's destroying everyone actually. So people
mm.
must budget wisely, yeah, must try their best, especially the young ones. That's
Thank you,
what I
Miss
can
Bongle.
tell.
There's actually a comment here that I think also speak kind of to what you were saying about betting and the dangers of it and how it's increased. Aliyah said, I was reading about this research that was done in South Africa for what are the top searches on search engines. And Betway was the first, then Betway login was second. So it was just Betway. There was nothing else. With over 7 million searches. And I think that is one of the biggest dangers is how easily accessible gambling has become. You now don't have to go to a casino. You can just sit at home, which
Just
is very
play
dangerous.
like your salary, just like that. Within 15 minutes, your whole salary is gone. It's
Mm,
gambling. It's crazy, guys, and it's not nice. Really, this thing is
mm,
killing people. It's taking their lives. away. You know, the online gambling, I think it's even worse. With me, I gambled in the casinos because I started in, I think in 2000 in Carousel, in Sun City. You know, I've grown up in the gambling industry. Like, you know, I was in prison for 18 years, if I can say that. And it's not easy coming out because there are a lot of consequences of these things. And, you know, repaying the debts and going back to those loan sharks, those dangerous loan sharks, that's not the life that we need for our kids and
Mm.
for our next generation. It's bad actually with these aviators, these super beds, with this, you know, and students, all the students. I'll tell you this: our students are gambling, and their parents doesn't even know about this. All in their university because they are looking for fast money, and there's no fast money in life. There's no easy money in life. I've learned that you must work for the money. There's no easy money. And I remember me when I was joining these things of the gambling, I thought to myself, I'm going to make money easy. You know,
Mm.
this is the easy money. I'm not gonna work hard. Guys, there's no easy money. You'll always chase your losses. And that false hope will tell you that one day you're gonna bring back your money. And there's no money that will come back. Instead, you lose yourself, you'll be depressed. Students, if you have listened to Metro, they're talking about all the students that are depressed in the university. And they are wondering why the students are depressed and stressed. I'll tell you, our students are gambling. 90% of them, they're into these super pets, these, you know, they're destroyed by this and they're afraid to talk about this. You know, when you can go to my TikTok inbox, you'll be surprised. You'll be
Mm.
surprised. It's really actually. Mhm.
Yeah, it is becoming a big, big problem, and the ease of it as well. I want to
Mm.
say thank you, Ms. Bongle, and I want to say thank you so much, JP, for both of you for giving advice, for sharing your stories. Very important. I have not forgotten about the rewards that we have to give. So, our winners for the Easy Equity vouchers. Easy Equity is going to help you start investing for your future. So our two winners is Kutlwano and Nkantla Ndlovu. So congratulations to the both of you. We'll be reaching out to you to give you the vouchers. And our winners of our the book written by Ms. Bongile, Dice of Despair, which I need to also go get and read. I'm very curious about it, and her story. Lunga, Prudence Jones, and Dike Lady Mahoto. Congratulations to the three of you on your book prizes. We will also be reaching out to you to see where we can get it delivered for you. But thank you so much for sharing. I hope everybody has learned something. Please share this also with people. The more people that know, you never know who you're reaching out to. They might also be in gambling debt and need help. So this is a way for you to spread the word. There will be a link to this session, so you can, send it out to people to keep watching and learning. But for now, thank you so much, everyone. Congratulations to our winners. Wishing you all the best for the rest of the week and the rest of the year. The year's moving fast, and we'll see you at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.